Everyone, can you hear me in the back? Oh, yes, you can hear? Good, good. My name is Leo Roy, and I'm your DCR Commissioner, and I'm delighted to see so many interested parties out this evening to talk about dogs at Stoddard's Neck. Let me turn this on, and maybe you could turn it on. While I keep talking, let me say at the very outset of the meeting, thank you very much, that we're really here to hear from the public this evening. I'm sorry, it's not. Actually, you just advance the slide. We're very interested to hear this evening from all of you about what your thoughts are about the current and future uses of Stoddard's Neck. One of the reasons why we're here is we believe there's a fair amount of confusion right now about what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I think that confusion, leads to challenges. And our hope is to really try and clarify, how the area, the park is supposed to be used and not used. Let me also say at the outset is we know how popular this is for dog owners to use this area off-leash. So it's not our intention, unless we hear something wildly different this evening, it's not our intention to change that, but clarify it and make things better. So I just want to set your minds at ease right at the outset of the meeting. So as we go through our presentation, you can't be sitting there fuming like, what are they going to do to my dog park? What are they going to do? So I just want to set that straight. And we have some ideas to really try and make it a better place for all of our users. So this is our chain of command. I work for Governor Charlie Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito, and a wonderful man by the name of Matt Beaton, who's our Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And one of the things we like to talk about at every meeting, thank you, Amanda, is our mission. The mission of the DCR is to protect, promote, and enhance our commonwealth of natural, cultural, and recreational resources for the well-being of all. And let me just give you a short commercial on DCR. Certainly you're familiar with the parks in this area, be it Webb, Stoddard's Neck, but I think as you go down over to Hult and Antasket Beach, we have some 450,000 acres that we manage on your behalf from Salisbury Beach in the far northeastern New Hampshire border all the way down to Bashbish Falls. If you haven't been to Bashbish Falls in the southwestern corner of Massachusetts, you owe yourself as one of the most beautiful waterfalls in Massachusetts that belongs to all of you. We also have the War Memorial, Mount Greylock, our first state forest out in the far northwestern corner of the state, all the way down to a new campsite, a new campground that we just purchased in Wellfleet. And we're very excited about that property coming online next year as a DCR facility. We have some 3,500 campsites across our system, and we're very excited. In 2 weeks, we're going to be reopening after 8 years of being closed in Taunton, Massasoit. The Massasoit campground with a beach dedicated to campers and a new playground with a day use area. All of these investments have been made by the Baker-Polito administration in the last 4 years to improve our park system. And I'm really proud to work for an administration that has made those significant contributions. You're probably seeing in the paper tomorrow that we're sending some firefighters out west. People don't realize that the DCR has firefighters, but we have about 80 wildland firefighters that work for us. We have over 1,000 wildfires in Massachusetts every year. Fortunately, they're not nearly as big or as destructive as the ones in the West, but they are important because we're such a densely populated state to make sure that the wildland fires and forest fires we have in Massachusetts are controlled. So you'll be seeing in the paper tomorrow that we sent a crew earlier this year out to Quebec to help our neighbors to the north with their wildfires, and the guys are on their way this very evening to northern Montana to help fight some fires out there. The other unusual thing about the DCR is we're responsible for your dams and flood control, all the parkways in the Metro Boston area. So the things that DCR does on your behalf is really quite broad. Let me tell you, thank you, Amanda. So the purpose of the meeting is to give you a short presentation about what we've observed at Stodder's Neck, some of the existing conditions that are out there. We're going to talk about the current uses of it. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the erosional areas that are there along the back river and along the water. I'm sure you've seen that and probably share some concerns about that. We're going to talk about that and some of our plans there. We're going to introduce the idea of having some different amenities at the park. It's a very short presentation, less than 20 minutes. And then the most important part of this meeting is to hear from all of you as to what are your thoughts, what's working, what's not working, and how can we make this recreational resource that belongs to all of you a better place for all. Before we begin with the presentation, I'd like to introduce your state representative, Joan Machino. I know that she's no stranger to all of you, but I have to tell you that we have the opportunity to work closely with Rep. Machino on Beacon Hill, and you are very ably represented by Rep. Machino. Representative?
I just wanted to thank you so much for that kind introduction. I just wanted to take a moment and to welcome Commissioner Roy here to be with us tonight. It's actually very special that he comes himself to these meetings, and he is not just the guy at the top, he is part and parcel of the team out in the district, and he is here to listen to you tonight. And so I heard some people saying, oh, I'm a little shy to get up, but please don't be shy. If you signed up to make some comments, it's good to say, yes, here's what I think, or someone's already said it, but I agree, or, I'd like you to consider this. All of these comments are an important part of the public process, so I'd encourage everyone to avail themselves of that opportunity or to say hello afterwards. So we just wanted to welcome you, to thank you for being such a wonderful steward for all of our natural resources. He was very shy about saying it, but we have the Boston Harbor Islands, we have Fort Revere, Nantasket Beach, we have Wampatuck State Park, so we have many wonderful resources here, and we really appreciate your great stewardship. I also wanted to make sure everyone knows that Senator O'Connor's Chief of Staff, Greg Denton, is here tonight as well. The Senator and I want to hear what you have to say, and we want to make sure that we're part of the process as well. So please, afterwards, if you have any questions, be sure to say hello, and I'm just happy to offer the Senator's welcome to you all in his absence and on his behalf. And without further ado, I'll turn it back to Commissioner Roy, and I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative. Also, your Animal Control Officer, Elizabeth Badger from the town of Hingham, is also here as well. So thank you for being with us. Now let me introduce our Acting Director of Planning and Engineering and Project Management at DCR, Patrice Kish, who will walk you through sort of the why we're here and what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to say it's so great to come out to these public meetings and see such participation. So thank you very much for coming this evening. So I am going to provide just a little bit of context and background for why we're here tonight. First of all, DCR acknowledges that there is a growing need for off-leash dog recreation areas. Currently, we manage about 20 such areas across the Commonwealth, and those locations you can find on our website. But the meeting tonight is part of an ongoing initiative that we're conducting, and we've been out in the community meeting with stakeholders and dog enthusiasts, talking about the need for additional off-leash dog recreation areas. So I have a confession to make. I am not a dog owner. I have a cat. He's as big as a dog, and he thinks he's a dog. But I think you all know better than I the benefits of off-leash dog recreation. First of all, these areas do provide a place for you to recreate with your dogs, and it offers just another option for recreation out in DCR's facilities. It's a great place to socialize, not only for people but for the dogs too. And I think there's a lot of data that shows that these dog parks and off-leash areas actually result in safer communities and neighborhoods. DCR welcomes dogs on leash at most of our facilities. We do have a couple of facilities out there that where dogs are not allowed, and the reason for that is primarily either public health or safety or habitat and conservation areas. And again, all of this information is out on DCR's website. If you go to DCR's website, I think the web page is called Dogs in DCR Parks. You can find all this information. I think most importantly, DCR welcomes dogs and dog owners in our parks. We encourage dog owners to be respectful towards other dog owners and park users, and we kind of encourage and invite you to be a park partner with us and assist us in our stewardship of our facilities. So DCR promulgated new regulations in October of 2014. And the regulations had two very important pieces to it. One, the designation of appropriate off-leash areas, and the second is a provision for a permit process for commercial dog walkers. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little later. So I'm going to now turn the presentation over to our consultant team, the Beta Group. They're going to be providing an overview of the proposed improvements for Stoddard's Neck.
Thanks, Patrice. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Amanda and I love to talk about dogs. We don't have dogs right now, but our children all do, so we consider ourselves grandparents. And we're pleased to be here and to work with DCR on this wonderful project and this wonderful park. Can everyone hear me okay? Please feel free to come up front if you need a seat. So to begin with, we design dog parks. We improve dog parks, but we also work on a lot of public projects. We've designed a lot of parks, trails, projects in resource areas, worked with interpretive and wayfinding signage. So those are just some of the things we do. Today's presentation, we're going to be talking mostly about Phase 1, which addresses the basic needs of the park. So it's just some very simple improvements that we could make. And we want to hear your feedback on this. And we want to hear what you think about these thoughts. We'll also be talking about potential future phases, and we'd like to hear what you think about that too. So for that, for Phase 1, we'll be talking about signage. We'll be talking about expanding the entry, improving the gateway. We'll be talking about accessibility, making it accessible for all. We'll be talking about optional fenced-in areas. There may be a few areas set aside for people to have that option if they feel they have that need. Also to provide mutt mitts or doggy poop bags and receptacles. So for the future phase and enhancements, some of those things might be an improved park entry from Route 3A, improved parking in terms of, I know it's been recently repaved, but maybe expanding the parking. Also more dog amenities, and we'll get into that later. Same thing, people amenities. And also maybe offer some formal shoreline access points. Right now there are 2, but we do see erosion areas where maybe people are accessing to the water, so we can discuss that for the future. Also to repair some of these eroded areas, to repair some of the paths that are there, and also just repair some of those eroded areas on the shoreline. So I think on to the next. This is an overall view of the park. It's about 22, 23 acres. The area that we're really going to be focusing on today is just the area that's in that circled area. So it's right by the parking lot and the entry to the park. This is a quick analysis of it, just showing the circulation, where there's a one-way circulation in the lot, where the drainage goes, how the main blue area is the main circulation for pedestrians. The green area is an open area, an open run area for the dogs. And then you can see the wooded areas. There are a few erosion areas in this slide that are in the red. Let me see if I can get, yeah, this works. So in the red, you have a few of the erosion areas. Here's the pathway. Here's the parking area. Into the next amendment. So here we have a photo of the parking area, plan view. And then off to the right here, we have a photo taken looking at that path that leads to the parking lot from Route 3A. And as you can see here, there's a dog that's not on a leash, and that's very close to the park. And when we've been there a number of times, we've seen this condition. Also, from the corner, looking into the entrance gate, here you see that stone wall. You can see the newly paved parking lot, and here's that gate. As you can see, we still need to add an accessible ramp in there.
Can everybody see the pictures okay? Do we need to turn off any lights, do you think, or
Is it okay?
you're all right?
Great. Okay, signage. Signage is important, particularly, I think, in the parking lot, to say, keep your dog on the leash when the dog's in the parking lot. Then when one enters into the park, once you go through those gates, then it's safe to take the dog off the leash. And so clear signage showing all of this. You can see on the bottom slide also just when I talk about accessible ramps, that's what I'm talking about, a ramp that someone could, in a wheelchair or impaired person, can walk easily up to the sidewalk. Here we have some pictures of the entrance gates. So here we're on the top picture, we're actually looking at a hole in the wall that leads to a footpath, and the footpath goes into the woods. And so we're thinking of expanding that as an entry. Also, there's the main entry, and you can see that there's the maintenance gate, which is broken. And then there's the pedestrian and dog gate that's very constricted, like a bottleneck. And so as a result, a lot of dogs like to pee there. Most of them. They all have their territory, right? There you go, the sign-in sheet like we had. So here are some possible improvements. And again, we want to hear your thoughts on this afterwards. But we can expand that pedestrian gate, make a new maintenance gate. Also, that could be a wooden gate. It could be a wood post gate. It could be a metal gate like it is now. Also to improve the surface, the walking surface that's there. And maybe that walking surface can be permeable and have a drainage layer underneath, so when it rains, it flushes it out. Also, we could plant some plants that dogs don't really care the smell of, so they may not go to use those areas. We could do that judiciously. And I think that's on to the next slide. So it's a little bit hard to see, but what we're talking about on the upper left-hand side is where we have that opening in the wall, where the rocks have tumbled down. We could fix that opening, widen it a little bit, put a gate there. Also then over to the picture here at the front gate, just to provide a welcoming entry. Maybe put something, what we call a doggy pee area, where it might have a lot of pea stone that's thick. That might be a place where we could have the dogs be attracted to instead of at the gates. And that could be put somewhere in that entrance area. And then on to, is that the next one? Oh, yeah, sorry. And then for the plan here, now we'll talk about once you get into the park and accessible pathways. This is really more about making the pathways accessible. So you can see at the entrance gate, it is a bit rocky and it could be difficult for some people to walk on. We could fix that. Once you get into the park, it's pretty accessible and it's very wide, but there may need to be some areas that can be smoothed out and fixed. Leading on to the next slide, please. So here's just some images of accessible paths. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in the slide, but if we do have a fenced-in, optional fenced-in area that people can use, we would make that accessible too. And it would have a double gate with that, and so we'll talk about that a little bit later. On to the next. So just some of the reasons why we might want an optional gate, fenced-in area, and that is that dogs can easily run out of the park. There's water nearby that people may not want their dog to go to. There's beautiful, wide, open, big spaces for dogs to run, but that might not be the best thing for all dogs. Maybe there's a young dog that still needs to be trained, or maybe there's a dog that's not feeling particularly sociable that day. Or, you know, you may have a dog that, like a dog I used to have, that you just used to take off because she was a hound and just did that naturally. But, you know, you may not want the dog going into undergrowth where there may be ticks. So, I mean, there's many reasons why somebody might want a fenced-in area. Maybe somebody who's a little more impaired that feels less comfortable going out in the bigger park. So there's a couple options that we have for possible fenced-in areas. One of them uses the western end of the pathway, the main pathway, and the other uses the eastern end. And so this one shows the western end. And so you can see right here the treatment of the entry, making it bigger, formalizing the path a bit more, having an accessible path from the parking lot, bringing that in, having a circulation, so to speak, where you could also, as a secondary gate, use this other way in, and then continue on through that path that goes through the wooded area, or loop back and go to the main area. Just gives it a little bit closer, so if you're parking over at this end, it's a little bit easier to get into the park. We've noticed when we've been at the site, we call this the gathering tree, and there has always been people at the gathering tree, so maybe we could put a sign there now, but we, you know, would like to preserve the gathering tree. Also, carrying that improvement on the pathway all the way around and then looping inside. So this would be the fenced-in, the optional fenced-in area. It's about 31,000 square feet. It would have these double-gated areas. That's sort of a transition area or neutral area for the dog where you can unleash your dog when going in. And then we can go on to, then here's the open, you know, off-leash open play as it is right now. And so here's another option where that fenced-in area is to the east of the path. And so this one actually cuts into the forested area a little bit. So there'd have to be some selective clearing done. And there would also, of course, be some selective clearing at this secondary entrance also. So this would be about 35,000 square feet. It too will also have two entrances with the double gate and an accessible path. This might be about 5 feet wide, whereas this path, it can vary. We know that the pathways there now vary from 10 feet to 20, 25 feet. I mean, they really are, it's all over. It does definitely vary. So we could make this so it's more consistent. We can make it wider. We just showed it at 12 feet just for this presentation, but it can certainly be the same as it is now. Maybe we take an average, maybe it's 18 feet, but that would be the improvements for this part of it. Again, we have that entrance, you know, and again, we have that open area that exists today. And then, of course, DCR will provide the mitts and receptacles that would be needed for the park. And this leads on to Amanda, who's going to show some images about what could be at Phase 1. Just some inspirational images, we'll call them.
So I'm going to try to just project my voice. Can everyone hear me okay in the back? Because we're, oh, you can do that for me? Oh, thank you. Okay.
So just to recap,
This first phase that we're thinking about, it just addresses some of the very simple but necessary things that are going to need to be done at the park. So we're proposing an optional fence area, and the emphasis on that is optional. No one's trying to fence in all the dogs at all. The open play area will stay, but we just want to provide an area where people who are a little more timid, dogs who are a little more timid, would feel safer. To widen the entry and to provide those 2 entries rather than 1. This will relieve that bottleneck at the 1 entry, and sort of allow a balanced entry on both sides of the park, to improve the pathways so that they're completely accessible and comfortable, and to enhance the signage, make it much clearer where the dog should be leashed and where they may be unleashed, and also for people without dogs who come to the park, to help them know that they're entering a park where there are unleashed dogs, so they don't wonder about that. So here are some images of what this fenced area might look like. These are all from existing parks across the U.S., and you can see that you can use very attractive post and rail fencing, backed up with a mesh so the dogs can't get through, or the bottom right shows a sort of a cottage type fencing. Your usual choice is chain link. That can be used also. And you can run paths through the fenced areas. There are a few more showing, once again, the post and rail, and how these fenced areas can include areas with trees so that the dogs can go in the woods also. And then the fenced area would have the double gated entry, and I'm sure most of you know what that is if you've taken your dog to a dog park. The first gate is for you to enter the space, and then there's a neutral area where you can take the leash off the dog and kind of scope out what's going on, and then you and the dog enter the park through the second entry. It works very well for dogs. Pathways. We're suggesting a crushed aggregate that is graded for accessibility, and you can see how well that blends with the country park type atmosphere at Stodder's Neck. And there would just be an accessible loop at the beginning of the park in phase 1. The little trails that the dogs like to run on, as you see on the bottom right, would stay just as they are. The signage and wayfinding, so a couple of different kinds, actually 3 different kinds of signs, maybe 4. One is a wayfinding sign, directional sign. Where is the dog park? Where are the different aspects? Where can you get to the shore? That sort of thing. One gives some directions on where are the off-leash areas and where are the on-leash areas. Direction to pick up your poop, please. The sign up at the top there is just a sort of an interpretive sign for people who are visiting and looking at the dogs running around and wondering about dog behavior. And eventually, probably not in this phase, but in a future phase, there could be a kiosk, a little roofed kiosk, becomes a gathering area. There can be information posted about dog events in the area, and it's nice to have that. And posting of rules. And this one I sort of like because it posts the rules in a very positive way. It encourages good behavior, and it invites the visitors to the park to allow their dogs to behave properly rather than a series of no, 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 no. So, and then the future phases that we've talked about, that Kelly talked about, might include an improved park entry from Route 3A so that people know the park is coming up, they know where to turn, the turn is safer. Some additional parking there for all the people who love to visit the park. more dog amenities and more people amenities. I'm sorry? Yes, I'm going to show some images in a minute, and then we'll be really interested to know what you all would like to see there. Offer formal shoreline access point for the dogs. We have heard from talking to some of the people there that there are some areas in the river where there's a big current and you really don't want your dog to swim unless he's a lab or something like that. So maybe an access point in the river where the water is more gentle. And of course, repairing the erosion. And I'll just show a few images of these ideas. So for your dog amenities, you don't have to buy pieces of equipment. You can put logs, you can put boulders, you can stack the boulders, you can make all kinds of fun climbing structures for dogs, all out of the materials that you have right there at the park. Or you can buy some because many companies make these wonderful little climbing structures, agility structures, the little jumps there. You already do have water at the park, but maybe you would like 2 places where water is available for dogs and people. And on the bottom left, that's just a very nice place where you can pick up your the doggy poop bags. And maybe there could be a few more of those throughout the park. And the next one. Here are just a few people amenities, more benches, trash receptacles that match. The image on the bottom right is a little doggy poop bag box that actually a volunteer built for a dog park. It just has a hinged lid. People bring their grocery bags and they stuff them in there, or their Boston Globe delivery bags, and it's kind of a free system to provide those bags for people. And then further on down the line, as the park really gains shape and more amenities for dogs, and say maybe a friends organization is formed, you could start to do some programming. You could start thinking about all the different uses for a park like that. Maybe some dog therapy trainings, in addition to just your usual dog park, dog socialization areas. So now I think I turn it back to Patrice.
So a couple of other things that DCR, kind of the factors that go into the implementation of these off-leash dog recreation areas is obviously consistency with our regulations and consistency with our dog walking permit program. And the other factor is the level of enforcement that DCR can provide and our local and state partners can provide. So I just wanted to touch upon the new dog walking permit program that DCR is going to be rolling out this fall. This fall we have a soft rollout of the program. The eight dogs will be allowed per permit, and there will be a one-time application fee of $35, and then an annual fee of $100 for 4 dogs and $200 for 8 dogs. The permit program will be in full force starting in 2019. And then finally, and this is something that I have a feeling is already happening in an informal way, and based on the fact that we received a petition of over 1,200 signatures for this dog park, I think we have the beginning of a friends group, and you may be doing a lot of these things already, but there are some really tremendous benefits to forming a friends group. DCR always welcomes park partners to help us carry out our mission. Some of the things that friends groups can do, and you may already be doing them, is educating your fellow dog owners, and offering different types of training sessions, community outreach, and having meet and greets. I know when I was at the park, I was just amazed at how many people knew one another. I mean, it's really, there's a community out there, and so that's great to see. Carrying out volunteer activities and helping DCR with the upkeep of Stodder's Neck. Fundraising for some of the amenities that you saw in the presentation, and also supporting DCR and seeking out sponsorships from third parties. So if there's interest in formalizing and becoming a friends group, we've included a contact name and number for people to get in touch with. So in terms of next steps, this presentation is going to be posted on our website. We're allowing a public comment period from tonight until September 5th. That's about 3 weeks. At the end of the public comment period, we'll review those comments and then just assess the community support for some of the things that we've presented tonight. So I think now I'm going to turn it back over to the commissioner, and we're going to move into the question and answer period. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice. You all know this building better than I, but I neglected at the beginning to say the bathrooms are out. Men's on this side, women's on that. There's some water and cookies in the back if you'd like. So now it's your turn. You've heard from us what our thoughts are, what we think of this place. Now we want to hear from you. We have about 25 people who have signed up to speak. So just in the interest of time, if you could limit your remarks to 2 minutes or less, that would be great. So we'll get a chance to hear from everyone who wishes to speak. And if you didn't sign in and at the end of the meeting and there's time and you really have a burning thing you want to share with us, there probably will be time to do that. So our first speaker this evening is Diana Sarah. Diane? You can either come up to the microphone if you'd like, or speak loudly from where you are, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for coming and presenting this to us. And I admit I came here a little skeptical and ready to fight for those who could not speak for themselves, our four-legged friends. But in regards to this evening, I just ask a question first off. How often did you go and do your assessment of the park? How many times did you go, and how long were you there when you did your assessments?
We went last fall. We went again in the spring, and we went again. There's been a surveyor there also, and then someone from our office lives in Hingham, so he's been stopping by regularly and taking pictures. And
Okay, so over a few months.
times.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the signage, I would feel strongly for a sign that says this is an off-leash park. That must be in huge bold letters, maybe repeatedly, so people who do not have dogs and go with the proper expectations of what they're going to encounter when they enter those gates. I'm a little concerned about the fenced-in area. I realize your points being made. My apprehension is give an inch, take a mile. That might come down in the future. Also regarding the areas of the fenced-in, when you say to the west, that water where there's some erosion, I'm not sure if that's the river that you speak about, but that is a part of the park that's best during all tidal periods. The other side of the park over by the by the shipyard, the Hingham shipyard, when it's low tide, that's mud, and the dog comes up to mud up to their shoulders. So that's like a no-go time during the low tide. So the west side is the better part. So if you block that waterway off, that will not be a good thing. You also, in your presentation, you kept mentioning we were referring to leash and off-leash areas. I don't know where that's growing. Is inside, or do you just mean the parking lot as the leash, or is not the inside going to be broken down into leashed and off-leash? And the presentation of making it prettier, which is a nice idea. Again, my hesitation is the more prettier and attractive it is to people without dogs, the more they will come and the more they expect it to be a people dog and the more they'll push the dogs out and push the leashes. And as you said, there are, I think, 450,000 acres of parklands in this state where humans can go. And as a person who lives on Nantasket Beach, I don't know where the representative, I think she may have
You had
left.
to leave.
The humans, by and far, make a much messier, disgusting use of the parklands than the dogs. Nantasket Beach is disgusting. So,
Thank you, Diane. If you could wrap up so we can let others speak.
and I just one more question. Is the presentation also going to be on the website for public comments for people who cannot appear?
Yes.
And that's it. Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you. Teresa Dixon. Teresa Dixon.
I was very surprised at the presentation tonight. The only thing that I got to add,
Or spin around and speak. You just turn.
Mic isn't on. Could you turn it on? No, the mic is on. It's not, we can't hear nothing here.
I just want to ask if there would be They currently plow the parking lot. Years ago, they used to plow around it. Is it possible that they could plow around it so that, we could walk in the wintertime? Because it's very difficult walking in there in the winter.
Okay. All right.
That's all I have to add.
Bobby Kelgan.
Hi, I just, not much to say. I'm happy with what was here. I was ready to go to the map like everybody else, I think. Out of 450,000 acres, how many are off-leash areas?
So I think we have about 20 areas that are off-leash, and we're trying to sort it out for the very reasons that we've talked about tonight. Make it clear, if you're a dog owner who wants to have your dog off-leash, this is the place for you to follow the rules and have your dog off-leash. And so the people who don't want to be, if they have small kids who are afraid of dogs, this is probably not the park for you. So we want to improve the communication as to whether, I don't think we've got a calculation of the acreage, but as Patricia said in her comments, dogs are welcome at almost all DCR facilities, the forests and the parks, on leash. What we're trying to identify is those special areas where off-leash is okay.
Okay, and just my wife is severely disabled in a wheelchair, can't get to Stodder's Neck. That was great news for me. We're going to move forward with that.
Wonderful, thank you, Bobby. Leslie Colello?
Hi, I think everybody's been there because I went to Carl Hawks when I was a kid. I'm one of those that I don't want you to spend taxpayers' money trying to improve something that is perfect for the dogs now. I heartily agree with the signage to let people know that it's a dog park, absolutely. But it is wonderful to see mothers bringing their baby carriages in. And we have had disabled in wheelchairs come in and watch the wonder of the dogs jumping up on that young man's lap. Some of you have probably remember that. I've been walking there for over 35, close to 40 years. I'm on my fourth dog progression. And the fact is the erosion that you mentioned about the beach on the side, a part of that is not due to the dogs or the people. It's due to a lovely Eagle Scout who would not listen when he was told what he was doing was going to increase the erosion. And he put it anyways on that back side.
Good to know.
Put in boards, the big boards that you're walking back here and see.
Oh,
So the dogs, instead of going over and jumping over the old log that was there and keeping the beach, it took that out, put the boards in, and the dogs went around it. That's a normal thing. The dogs do it. But I really don't want taxpayer money spent needlessly.
Okay, thank you.
Gating, if you're going to gate, take a look at how the English have done it for keeping sheep and cattle in. Okay, put a step up. Yeah. Anyways, I'll stop now and I will send in my written thing.
Wonderful, thank you.
You shouldn't change what works.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Steve Buckler.
Yes.
Steve.
Hi. My wife and I have been coming down from Situate for the last several months, walking our dog. And it's a dream because there's very few places where you can actually let your dog out. A couple of quick, like most people, I was ready for a fight, so I'm kind of thrilled that the bullets are out of the gun. However, the Friends of Stoddard's Neck seems to me a great idea. And there are a lot of issues that we collectively can address and self-manage. Picking up after your dog, by the way, is a real bone of contention with me. I see it up in Situate. I do see it at Stoddard's occasionally, and it's annoying as hell. I just can't believe that people walk away from their dog's mess. It just infuriates me. So maybe we can sort of self-police people. I carry extra bags with me, and oftentimes I go, "Could you want a bag?" So I would endorse and get involved with the Friends of Stoddard's. I think that's a great idea.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. Kat Caracciolo? Kat Caracciolo?
I don't have a question anymore.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kat. Lisa DeGusto? Lisa DeGusto? Okay, wonderfully. Len Weiser-Varon? Hi, Len.
So thank you for the presentation. You know, it all sounds unobjectional. I guess two questions. One is, kind of on the fenced-in area. I don't feel strongly one way or the other, but I am curious whether there's a groundswell of desire for such a thing, and what is it that's...
So we're here to gauge whether there is a groundswell of desire or not. We've suggested it because we've heard at other locations, again, as Patrice said, we're going around the state trying to improve our how DCR welcomes our four-legged friends to the parks with a greater clarity. So we've heard from a number of dog owners who are uncomfortable having their dogs off-leash in not a fenced-in area. Either the dog doesn't return when called, or the dog is not as well trained as all of your dogs are. So that's why there's often an interest. But if we hear from you that there's no interest, I'm with Leslie about saving the taxpayers' money. We won't put a fence in if you don't want a fence. So that's what we're here to hear from you tonight. Your thoughts on it? No fence? Okay. How about this is a town hall. How many no fence? Okay. And how many would like a fence? Okay, a handful for fences. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. Yeah.
Can I just make a point for the fence?
Sure.
I'm one of the few pit bull owners in the audience. So as my perspective as a pit bull owner, I run into people who do not know my dog and see my dog off leash and have a reaction to my dog based on their perception of what my dog is. I run into a lot of dog owners who are new dog owners and don't understand dog behaviors and are uncomfortable and they want to keep their dog on the leash. And so having a fenced-in area for them to feel more comfortable, even if they only use this fenced-in area for a short time before they understand what the dogs are doing, how they interact, and to alleviate any fears that they have coming into an area as big as Stodder's with any number of challenges in their mind is not a bad thing.
Okay.
It's not a large area that they have proposed for fenced in.
Okay.
It's not in an objectionable place.
Okay.
I think it's really a great idea.
Thank you very much. Let's let Len finish, because Len had another point.
Yeah, so, and the second question is simply one of disruption, which is, I mean, to the extent, some or all of these projects occur, obviously, I'm sort of in the camp of it ain't broke, but, everything can be improved, but I would hope that to the extent that there are improvements, it's not going to involve, a lengthy period of disruption of the ability to use
Yep.
the park as a whole or large parts of the park or whatever. So
Good.
I don't know if there could be some elaboration on, like if you're going to redo the parking lot, what exactly is that going to mean in terms of access?
Okay, good, good. We can come back to the public if we have plans that would be disruptive. I think we are rather keen to fix the opening. There's that pinch point. It is also not accessible to wheelchairs. So that we're rather keen. We think that would be a big improvement and allow people with mobility issues greater access to what was noted as a pretty level area in the main area for that. Thank you, Len. Dan LaBelle? Hi, Dan.
Hey, thanks for coming. I really appreciate your time. There's a couple of things that I noticed, like with your pictures up here for, this is what's going across the country. Here's our entrances. And I don't think you took into account that it's winter around here. Right? So when it snows, you've got gates like that. You're never going to be able to get in. So that's always been a contention there. It's dangerous. I'm into the safety of the people. We get people like Tracer. They don't get around as easy. So the path has to be smoothed out. There's a lot of rocks that are rising up. That makes the path dangerous. And the other thing you didn't mention was, I call it widowmakers. There's a lot of trees there in the woods that have tipped over, they're leaning, and they are dangerous. They'll come down and they could get something. So those are my three big areas that I think we should focus on.
Good, wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we all know what the March storms did to us all, and so we're still catching up with those 450,000 acres. We've got a lot of tree work across the whole system, but thank you. We'll take a special look at Stodder and the debris. Thank you. Ben Hodgkins?
Yeah, excuse me for sitting, but
Sure.
I just want to say, I drive 44 miles a day just to go to Stoddard's, because it's a perfect place for my dog and for me. So I could go anywhere I wanted to, but that's the only place I want to go. And you're right, this is a family. It's a big family and it's very, very diverse.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change it for anything.
Good, thank you. Joanne Oval?
Hi, I would like to see a gate put in just so the dogs can't get out, because a couple of times I did see them going out on the street there, the busy street, and I would love to see some kind of gate here where it's all muddy, because my dog is the one that goes right in the mud all the time.
Okay.
But I thought we were gonna have to fight tonight too, to just keep it, so it's really good that, you are listening to everyone.
Yep. Good, thank you. And is that Laurel Oval? Oval?
Yeah, no comment.
No comment. Oh, sorry, Leon, I couldn't read it. Ben Taylor?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for coming out, and also thank Finn here for gathering those 12. I'll be quick, but I've been to dog parks all over the country. I lived in California for a long time, and Stoddard's Neck is the most beautiful dog park I've ever seen with, just geographically, you've got water on 3 sides, and it's just made for dogs, and we all love it. One thing I would like, I used to, with my first dog I brought to Stoddard's Neck the first time 20 years ago, I used to be gung-ho. She was a shepherd. I'd get in that parking lot, let her out, just like all the other dog parks we went to. She'd go running for the gate. She's a good girl. She'd come with me. I also worked in emergency and ICU. Parking lot accidents happen a lot. I've worked in surgery where we've, sat, for hours putting a pin up a dog's leg for fractures. And I feel strongly about parking lot is a place for the dog to be on the leash. And then you responsibly bring the pet you love into the park. So signage to that extent would be great, and I'm thrilled that parking lot would be the only off-leash area. Yeah, that's it.
On-leash area, you mean? On-leash. Right. And thank you very much for that, Ben, because that really is critical that you keep your dog on the leash in the parking lot for everyone's safety. We're going to go in order, Miss, I'm sorry, we're going to go in order to the votes. At the end, we'd love to hear your comment. Jim Morrison?
Just one comment. If anyone wishes to make sure that their comments are filmed for TV, they need to speak into the microphone, please.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize we're on TV. Does my hair look okay? Okay, Jim Morrison.
thank you for coming, Commissioner Roy. I was one of the few that met you the day you wandered into the park. And that was very nice. That was,
I stop by frequently, Jim, actually, just to check it out.
at this park?
Yes.
Oh, good. I had a number of concerns that I wanted to be basically, they almost all have been addressed in an overall way, and I plan to put together my own written response, public thing. So you can expect that. I have other design things that I have in mind, and overall, I couldn't be more pleased. You know?
Thank you, Jim.
The details.
Che Otteson. Hi.
First, I'm not sure everybody can see, but he has a lovely tie on of dogs to win us all.
It's got dogs and also dog houses, so I didn't know how the meeting was going to go. Whether I was going to be the dog playing or the dog in the dog house, so we'll see.
To piggyback on, what everybody else was saying, I came here to fight, and I wrote a speech, and I have concerns because we all heard rumors that the town of Hingham was going to get involved somehow, just like they did with Bear Cove. And it would be great to hear some sort of confirmation that there will not be those kind of issues, like making it like we can bring our dogs on odd days, because that means we're only there once on the weekend for the people that work a full-time job. So that was a big concern. And then the other rumors I've heard are like that there's constant calls coming in with dog bites and dog fights and all that. And I did the research, and for the last 2 years, in 2016 and 2017, the calls that came in to Stodders, there were about 6 dog incidents in 9 dog incidents in 2016 and 6 dog incidents in 2017. So I just want to be clear that I've done the research, my people have sent me their notes, and if you need any more information, I'm your girl.
Okay, thank you very much. Katrina Keyser. Katrina?
Hi, Katrina. I'm amazed. No, I don't need it on TV. I'm amazed that you did a lot of work here. I'm really happy with everything, especially the gate, especially the leash parking lot. Those are really important things. If you want to set up that small area when you walk into the left as a gated for people that aren't comfortable, I think that's a great idea, really. It's not, I will never use it, but it's great because I've met many people walking there, they're nervous about taking their dog off the leash. So I don't think there should be any objections to taking a very small area of the park and making it that way. The access, that whole park is huge. Go in to the right, you got beach access on the right, beach access, you got that beautiful view at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you need to spend as much money and do as many things as you think you might, that we want.
Okay.
You know, all those little signs and cute little doggy park things, I'm not gonna stop and read them. The most important part is, this is unleashed, except for this area, you know, pick up your dog poop, have fun, that's all we really need. We don't even need dog toys, the toys are the hills and the trees and, you know, they don't go in those silly little tunnels and, you know, jump over, they don't need it, everything's there, it's all natural, you know, don't screw it up with it.
Okay, thank you. That's one of my mottos in life, don't screw it up. Patty Croyle?
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. This was great.
Good.
Thanks very much.
Veronica Palmer?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Veronica. I've just been over for a short time, but that dog park. Can't hear you. Hello? Don't do
I've only been going there for, well, a short time, only 6 years.
It's a long time, but it's heaven on earth for dogs. It really is. It couldn't be better. I don't know what you could do to make it better, but there are some things you could do. I'm having difficulty. I'm just gonna talk. Well, for one, I'm gonna go back to my chair. So when we were doing the petitions, people had such great ideas. I'm just gonna go through a couple of really quick ones. One of them was in and out gate, because since there's a little bit of leash aggression in the beginning, if you ever come on a really busy day, dogs love this park, and they're so enthusiastic when they come in initially that they're all sort of in one little group here, and they're all vying to get out. And dogs behave differently on leash than they do off leash. So maybe an area where you come in with your really excited dogs and maybe go out with your exhausted dogs that don't want to be annoyed with these other dogs. That might be a nice idea. And also an area, like I know that the word fence is really scary for us because we love our off-leash dog park and we're not a fan of fences, most of us. But sometimes puppies, when they first come to the park, they get a little intimidated by the bigger dogs because our big dogs, they think that the park is their backyard. So they think they own this park and they visit all the dogs and they, so maybe a little squared off area for puppies might be nice where people can, come and see puppies even, like on a Sunday morning to see a fenced-in area full of puppies. I don't know what could be better than that, while they're getting used to it. That was one of the suggestions people had made while we were sitting. I'm not a fan of having an on-leash area in this park only because, and this is just me speaking, there's Webb Park, Great Esker Park, Bear Cove Park, World's End. There are plenty of places if you feel like your dog wouldn't be comfortable off-leash with other dogs or other people. I don't think that, I personally feel like this park should remain completely off-leash, but that's my
Okay,
opinion.
thank you, Veronica. Donna Grant. Donna Grant. Donna? Hello.
I'd just like to know what all this preparation you do, how much does this cost?
I don't know, how much did this cost? What was the consulting contract? 40. Ruth? Ruth's our project manager?
Yes, so far,
You just. This is Ruth Helfud. She's our project manager on this project.
Hi, everybody.
for DCR.
Thank you for this great turnout. We really appreciate your input. We have, all design work has different phases, but so far on this project, we've probably spent about $6,000. But there's much more to come based on 6,000? Right. But, so if you will, the design, if I could make.
Please.
Okay, so just to give you just a quick overview of what might happen next is that we'll take your ideas, percolate them, think about them, go back to the drawing board. I mean, this is just beginning concepts, just to get the conversation going. Nothing you see up there is absolutely fixed, but the ideas can lead to fuller design. And when we hear you saying, don't spend taxpayers' money, we hear you, we really appreciate that. But there's certain standards, for safety, for accessibility, we do have to implement. So we would do it as in low-key a way as possible. And we will bring back a fuller design to you also. We're not going to just take this and then go do our thing. So we would develop design further. We need permits from the Conservation Commission if we're within 100 feet of the water. So there are various things that have to be done to develop design farther and then go through, develop construction documents and bid it. So it's a process, but right now we're still in the beginning stages, and we're thinking about all these things. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Donna, for that question. Cynthia Nelson. Hi, Cynthia.
Here, Cynthia. Well,
Whoa.
this is it.
All right, that's.
Star is born. Actually, because of work, I got here late, so I probably missed a few of the valuable pieces of information. I concur with most of everything that's been said, especially the enhancement of the gate, if it can be done in a fashion where we can get into the park in the wintertime as well. And that concept of the in and out, that's a really good idea, actually. And there's also these devices that will actually make electricity from dog waste. That provides light, just for something, down the line. It generates, huh?
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, it might add to, it's lighting of the park. You could use,
Wonderful.
that would make people pick up
Thank
the
you.
poop. It's gonna make the light.
Thank you,
So, other
Cynthia.
than that-
Carol Harlan? Harkin, sorry.
I'm concerned about making the parking lot larger. I think if you made it larger, that's going to bring more people. And I think because of Bear Cove being closed down, we already have more people. And I hate to see it even more. If there's not room for you to park when you come by, come back later. I don't think making it bigger is a good idea.
Okay.
Keep it the way it is. It's a beautiful, beautiful park.
Thank you.
It's a piece of heaven. Well, I don't think that, how often does that happen to you? That you come there and you don't? Okay, but I don't, and I just hate to see it that much bigger because that many more people are gonna show up.
Yeah.
And there's already been quite a few.
Yeah, last Sunday, there was no.
Yeah.
It was crowded.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful, thank you. Steve Gilman.
Thank you, Commissioner, for coming down tonight and sharing your time with us. It was a great presentation. I think like most people, I came in here pretty fired up as a dog owner, and now I'm somewhat indifferent as a dog owner, but a little more fired up as a taxpayer. I echo a lot of Leslie's sentiments. It seems like we're trying to fix a problem that doesn't really exist. The one thing that I might advocate spending money on is drainage and plowing. A lot of times we'll go in there in the winter and it won't be plowed and it'll be a sheet of ice, especially in the back. So that certainly presents a safety issue. Other than that, I think it's a beautiful park. We're lucky to have it in our community, and I wouldn't change too much. One thing I would like clarification on, are we all breaking the law right now when we have our dogs off leash in there, or is it simply a matter of signage that hasn't been updated?
You're not breaking the law. In fact, if you notice, the sign that said "Leash your dog" has come down. We took that sign down. I don't know if you've noticed that, but we took that sign down. The way Stodder's Neck is described on our website, Dogs in Mass Parks, is it says it's an off-leash area in a certain area, but that area has never been defined. So that was really the problem that we're trying to solve here, among other things tonight, just to clarify that we're proposing the entire peninsula inside the fence, once you go through the gates, as an off-leash area. So that's what we're proposing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Arlene McAuliffe.
Hi, how are you? I come to Stoddard's from Quincy. I only got into I don't need that. I only got into dog ownership 5 years ago, and I discovered Stoddard's. Love going there. I love coming early in the morning. I feel so close to nature, like everyone said, surrounded by water. I don't want my dog on leash. I resent that. I've trained him. I work really hard at it, and I love going there. You meet the regulars who are there, and I don't think people go there who can't have their dog off leash. And you know what? I have friends who don't go there primarily because their dogs can't behave. So let's keep it that way. Let's not change too much about it.
Okay.
It is as close to beauty and nature. We can't go to the other place because we know all the rules. So let's keep this just like it is and enhance the beauty just a small bit, okay? And
All
let's
right.
all go and meet and have fun and just be as close to having
Thank you, Arlene. Monica Hines. Monica Hines. Monica, are you still with us? Lewis Hines. Or Haynes. Lewis Haynes? Lewis Haynes or Hines? Okay, is there anyone who has a burning statement that you'd like to say? Yes, Miss. Here's the microphone right here. Ann, right here.
Me, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add to the parking lot issue. Of course, the dogs need to be on leash, but there's also needs to be a sign that you cannot go faster than 5 miles. My dog got hit on a leash in the parking lot because the teenager just went way too fast and wasn't watching out. So, yeah, something needs to be for the people. It's usually just the people that are the problem, not the dogs. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that. I was thinking that a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit inside the park, so that when DCR trucks come in, that they show, an appropriate level of caution. Okay? So 5 miles, 7 miles would be good for that.
Okay,
as
wonderful,
well.
thank you. Another comment? Down in front here, Ann?
I just want to reiterate that for those of us that use the park year-round, that having the paths plowed in the wintertime would be really great. And I know that costs money, but I think most people who go during the winter would appreciate it.
So let me just comment on that. We have across the DCR system almost 4,000 miles of trails. As you can imagine, we can't afford to plow them all. And so we do have a partnership program that we do with Adidas in Boston on the Paul Dudley White bike path, where they make a donation to the park. We use that money to plow. So as you get your friends group organized, if this is something that's important to the users of the park, to say, hey, we really would like the paths, that would be a good thing to raise money for, to collect the funds to do that, because with so many paths, we just can't do them all. But again, on a park-by-park basis that has a friends group, we have about 150 friends groups across the DCR. People who love the park they use, they care about it, they steward it, and they provide volunteerism, they provide programming and things to do at the park, meetups, and they provide a little cash, and all that goes to making the park a better place. So I would encourage you to consider strongly a friends group.
How much would we need to raise?
Let me get back to you on that. I don't want to just throw a number out, but let me figure out what would be appropriate.
I just have
Veronica.
a great segue. There's a beginnings of a friendship group sign-up sheet outside, if anybody knows there. And if anyone does plowing in the winter, we'd particularly like them to sign up. And aside from that, I just have one more wish list thing that everyone talks about that would be great at this park, and I'm sure it's expensive or not. I don't know. So the dogs go in the water a lot, and they get very wet and smelly and sometimes a little muddy. There's a water. Well, yeah, it's gross over there. So there's a water area there where there's, a watering dish and whatever. I don't know how expensive it would be, but it'd be great if there was a place we could just have a hose, maybe, with a little sprinkler to wipe, We just bring towels with us so that our cars wouldn't be covered in mud. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Yes, a little down there, and then we'll come to the back of the room. About halfway down, Ann? Yes, miss.
I'm not sure if this is going to go over well with everyone, but no one's mentioned us. Does anyone interested in a porta potty or two on I know that we have to get down to go to a restaurant or whatever, but and some of them are very clean.
Okay.
Does
Ann?
everybody hear me?
Okay. And Leslie's over there, and then we'll come back to the back of the room.
I just want to add a couple of things.
Could you give Leslie your attention, please?
One, they talked about conservation, and there's all of us here. Do we have ticks on our dogs at Stodder's Neck? Do you know the reason why? Dogs. The dogs have kept the coyotes out, so the deer stay on the other side. We've had coyotes occasionally, but the dogs keep them away too. So 5 years ago, chipmunks came back. How many of you have seen them in the morning? Yeah. We didn't have those 25, 30 years ago. They're new. Goldfinch are back. Our cardinals, the birds that we've got. We haven't had mosquitoes this year. Do you know why? Barn swallows. Haven't you watched them in the big field? That's a part of the danger if you start coming in and making changes. Porta potties, I walked there when the problem in Hingham was the drug use and the hookups that happened there when it was a dangerous place to walk. Because we've started there and we're walking there, that doesn't happen anymore. So again, there's lots of things that would be nice, but is it a want or a need? And right now, We don't have many needs at all. And I can do without wants for a while.
Thank you. And there's a gentleman in the pad. I think, sir, you need to come to the mic because it doesn't quite get that far.
Thank you for coming. I met you on one of your trips down to Stoddard's. But one thing that I had noticed is, or I'm asking the question, on your other parks in the state where you have regulations, is there a regulation that addresses unfixed dogs or dogs that are not spayed? Because I've noticed whenever there may be a little issue, it's maybe some of the dogs are jealous of the other dog, but it causes a little bit of a ruckus. So I don't know if that's on your regs, but could it be?
You know what, let me look into that. I know that other states and other jurisdictions do have rules about that. I don't recall off the top of my head what our regs say, but thank you for that suggestion. We'll look at that. Sir, if you come forward, because the mic only goes that far, or just speak loudly from where you are, your choice.
Hi, I'm Andrew Michael from East Bridgewater. I don't have a dog. Like other people's money, I use other people's dogs. My friend has a dog. We go there once a week. But I agree with extending the parking because come one, come all. You don't want to not extend the parking and keep it to yourself. That would be unfair to others. So extend the parking. How about putting in some solar lights? Come October, November, you blink, it's dark, it's 4:05. You're used to the sun being out till 8. So if you're at the end of the park, you're in the dark, solar lights. I mean, they don't cost a lot of money. Third most important thing, no one said all night, I was waiting and waiting and waiting. No one's mentioned security cameras in the parking lot. Okay, how about a security camera in the parking lot? People there at night, women are there at night, guys are there at night. Eventually the thieves might figure out, look at all these nice cars in the parking lot. I'm going to swing in there at night and rob somebody. Have a camera. Involve the Hingham police in that. Maybe they drive through the parking lot, at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock when it starts to get dark in the winter. Don't exclude. Include.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? One last one right here.
I just have one quick question. So I was totally impressed when I heard there was 1,200 signatures in a week and a half. Did you expect that much, people signing?
I think Finn did an outstanding job collecting those signatures. 1,200 signatures in a week is very impressive.
That park is really heavily used.
Very
I think it says
impressive.
a lot about it.
Thank you. So let's jump ahead on the slide if we could. Just to wrap up, as Patrice said, this presentation will be up on the website. And please encourage those of your friends and neighbors, relatives who couldn't be here. If they have some thoughts, they use the park. We really want to hear from all people. So there will be time until September the 5th to provide your comments. I also want to acknowledge the wonderful DCR staff. I'm sure you encounter them. Matt Tobin, Susan Kane's in the back, who's our district manager. Jenna Johnson is here, as well as Ruth, you met, Olivia Dorrance. The people of DCR care about these places as much as you do. And what's wonderful about working for this agency is we really are a mission-driven organization. We all care very much about protecting and preserving these places for the citizens of Massachusetts and our visitors. So thank you very much. The rep was great to mention all the parks that are in this vicinity. But it always puzzles me why people go, down south or Maine or New Hampshire when we've got the best parks that belong to all of you here in Massachusetts and the West. So please, over the course of the summer, the fall, the winter, and spring, I hope that you find an opportunity to find yourself in the DCR park. Thank you so much for your input, and thank you for coming. Good night.